GitLab is the faster path from idea to software. It's more than a code repository. It's one workflow that brings development, security, and operations teams together. No walls, no endless feedback loops. Use GitLab end-to-end or integrate it with the tools you love. And it lets you eliminate the rest to help reduce costs and boost productivity at the same time without trade-offs. With GitLab, teams can build software faster, automate software delivery, shorten cycle times, and increase developer productivity. And security is built in, not bolted on. Scan for vulnerabilities with every code push, automatically. It's the entire development process, all in the same place where everyone works. Because we're on this path together. The path from idea to collaboration to higher performing teams. With one comprehensive, innovation-driving, fast and secure DevSecOps platform. Software faster. GitLab.
All right, hello and welcome to our webinar today. Today we'll be discussing planning with GitLab with a focus on helping you transition from Jira. But before we begin, I want to go over a few housekeeping items. First, I want to let you know that I'm joined by some of my colleagues here at GitLab who can help answer any questions that you might have throughout today's presentation. You don't have to wait until the very end to ask your questions or share your thoughts. So please engage with us in the chat or via the Zoom Q&A feature as soon as something comes to mind. After the completion of today's webinar, you'll receive a recording of our presentation, as well as a copy of this deck with additional links and resources to help you on your journey. All right, let's go ahead and get started. To kick things off, I want to introduce ourselves to you. My name is Chris Gatarte. I'm a senior customer success engineer at GitLab, and I help customers get enabled and adopt all of the rich functionality in the GitLab DevSecOps platform through one-on-one meetings, webinars, and workshops. Today, I'm joined by my colleague, Gabe, who can introduce himself to you.
Hey, I'm Gabe Weaver. I'm a senior product manager in the plan stage at GitLab. Happy to be here.
All right, thanks, Gabe, for that. We're both excited to share some of the key features and capabilities within the powerful planning tools in GitLab as you consider transition from tools like Jira. So this is our agenda for today. We'll first provide an overview of planning with GitLab. Then we'll share the key GitLab advantages for planning work. Afterwards, I'll talk you through a terminology crosswalk to eliminate complexity when coming from Jira. Then we'll jump into the key GitLab planning features of epics, issues and tasks, labels, milestones, and iterations. Finally, Gabe will take over to demonstrate and share some examples of how he works within GitLab's planning tools to help you visualize your own use cases within the DevSecOps platform. We'll wrap up with some migration tips and how to get in contact with the customer success team. But before we dive in, I want to set the stage for our discussion today. GitLab offers robust team planning capabilities that link work directly with the DevOps lifecycle. Keeping teams in a single application offers operational and financial advantages. Many customers inquire about what a transition would look like from Jira Software to GitLab for their team planning. This webinar will start to outline the differences in functionality and advantages gained by using GitLab. So now with that introduction, I want to kick things off with a list of key GitLab advantages. First, GitLab allows you to organize teams around a portfolio of projects using groups. Jira doesn't allow you to create a hierarchy for containers of agile planning work items. Groups and projects in GitLab unlock portfolio of teams planning, permissions management, and data rollups. Consider how you want to roll up data and assign permissions when creating a group and project structure. We recommend creating a group to represent your team, where you can manage epics, labels, and boards. Child projects under your team's groups can house your repositories and related issues. Represent your organization using these groups and projects, where groups are collections of projects and can be nested up to 20 levels deep. Secondly, GitLab offers multiple levels of planning. GitLab supports nesting epics up to 7 layers deep. Nested epics offer users the flexibility to represent planning at both the strategic and tactical levels. Work for an epic can be distributed across different projects and groups to enable cross-team coordination. Dependencies between items can be seen in the issue and epic detail pages, where basic epic dependency visualization is available on the roadmap. The next advantage is the ability to aggregate and visualize value stream analytics. An advantage of using a single platform to manage the entire DevOps lifecycle is tying plans to execution. Value stream analytics allows organizations to derive insights into their operational health from idea to production. The power of the single DevSecOps platform is that you can have end-to-end visibility into your organization's efficiency. With Value Stream Dashboard, you can gain insights into how long each step of the process is taking and identify opportunities for improvements. And Value Stream Analytics allows you to customize your stages based on predefined events. To make configuration easier, GitLab provides a default list of stages that can be used as a template. Another advantage is the ability to link issues to merge requests. We support linking issues to merge requests without the need to set up integrations. This gives all team members the context needed about the true status of work. And finally, GitLab provides design management. GitLab enables product management, engineering, and designers to collaborate on designs in the context of an issue. Teams can review designs and work through feedback within a single source of truth. Every issue supports attaching multiple designs where you can comment directly on the image itself. And all design assets are version controlled, so you can see what has changed from one version to another. We also maintain a Figma plugin that enables designers to effortlessly publish Figma frames directly to corresponding GitLab issues from within Figma. Now here's a terminology crosswalk of Jira features and our recommendations for accomplishing similar workflows in GitLab. Labels. So with labels, GitLab offers many ways to customize your experience based on labels. We recommend creating a set of scope labels to represent statuses. We also often see users create scope labels for work categorization, such as bug and enhancement or maintenance. If you had a custom field for a value in Jira, or you want to be able to filter out or pull analytics by a specific attribute, just create a label for it in GitLab. So in mapping the capabilities from Jira, you see that issue types map to scope labels, custom fields map to labels and scope labels, and status maps to scope labels. As you can see, depending on your requirements when planning your migration, you may need to assign mutually exclusive labels for more complex workflows. Finally, in Jira, you might be using enforced workflows. With GitLab, we do not overcomplicate collaboration and avoid maintenance burden with extensive configuration options. Instead, we offer ways to improve data quality through automation. Today, users can set up GitLab triage to trigger actions when specific conditions are met. We also offer enforcements closer to DevSecOps work. So GitLab is designed to seamlessly integrate into your existing processes, but making the right configuration choices can optimize your product development journey. Today, Gabe and I want to walk you through the best practices for using GitLab's planned feature set, including epics, issues, tasks, milestones, and iterations, so you'll have the knowledge you need to make the most of your GitLab subscription. So let's dive right in and ensure you're leveraging GitLab to its fullest potential for your team. An epic represents a broad, overarching goal or area of functionality that is sometimes referred to as a theme or capability. It's not a detailed feature or a specific user story, but rather a larger strategic concept that encompasses several related features and user stories. Epics can be viewed on roadmaps and boards to gain insights into status and aid with planning workflows. Users with an ultimate subscription can create nested sub-epics beneath this overarching goal. Sub-epics are useful to break the larger theme or capability into standalone features, which individually deliver value to users. Issues serve as detailed user stories, describing the required functionality from an end user perspective. These user stories represent the specific needs and expectations of the users. GitLab is built with collaboration in mind. You've got threaded comments, merge request integration, and design management to enable your teams to share important context within a single tool. When it comes to execution, issues can be further broken down into discrete development tasks. These tasks are the individual steps and technical assignments necessary to fulfill a user story. When all these tasks are completed and shipped together, they collectively satisfy the user story, ensuring that the desired functionality is implemented successfully. And in GitLab, labels are a versatile tool for better organization and efficiency. They're more than just tags. They're the key to unlocking a number of possibilities in your workflows. Labels can be used to tailor views in boards, lists, and roadmaps. Labels allow you to categorize and filter your epics, issues, and tasks in various ways. You can use scope labels to define workflow states like ready for development or in review, making it crystal clear where each task stands. But labels go beyond that as well. They help you align your work with broader themes or initiatives, such as user experience or performance optimization. Do you want to track the impact of your work on business drivers? You can easily track and share the impact work has on drivers like adoption, expansion, and retention using labels. Imagine viewing a board organized by themes, instantly seeing the bigger picture of your project, or filtering your roadmap by business driver to pinpoint which work is advancing your key objectives. Milestones play a central role in the planning process, serving as time boxes for extended planning horizons, such as program increment or release planning. They go beyond being simple containers for work and are designed to represent specific and strategic time-based goals. When assigning issues to milestones, epics inherit the milestone start and end time dates from the delivery workstream, helping align your desired dates with your team's projected delivery dates. Besides release planning, milestones can represent program increments in a scaled agile framework or SAFe. This is typically a fixed version in Jira. In GitLab, you can view a burn up or burn down chart for a milestone. Iterations are the heartbeat of our continuous development framework, offering fixed, time-boxed development sprints that can span between 1 to 4 weeks. These iterations provide a dynamic rhythm to your workflow where individual user stories or issues are assigned to iterations, ensuring they progress within well-defined development cycles. While milestones set broader time-based goals for your overarching capabilities, iterations bring agility and focus to your day-to-day development efforts. By combining both milestones and iterations, you create a powerful synergy. Milestones help you plan major achievements over longer horizons, while iterations ensure a steady, short-term cadence for efficient and focused development. In the screenshot, you can see how easy it is to set up an iteration for your group. Just like milestones, you can view iterations with a burn up and burn down chart as well. With issue boards, you can create lists for each iteration to efficiently sequence work across your upcoming development cycles. And GitLab Triage is an open source gem that complements GitLab's existing functionality by providing a way to define automation policies to support triage and issue hygiene. It's extensible by design, allowing you to tailor your automation policies to your team's unique business processes. You can set this up to run on a schedule to enforce your workflows automatically based on any conditions you've set. And as a reminder, you want to go back to this slide with our follow-up resources to learn more and go hands-on with a tutorial to get you started. Now, let's explore how to make the most of these valuable planning tools. Gabe, I know you have a lot of experience using GitLab for your day-to-day planning work. Do you mind sharing with our audience some examples and use cases that our customers migrating from Jira would be interested in seeing?
Yeah, I'd love to, Chris. Thanks. What I'm going to do today is walk through a kind of live demo of getting started in GitLab, up and running, with how to facilitate Scrum natively within GitLab. And so I'm in this demo environment. This is a group called GitLab Agile Demos. It's where we house our demos. One of the things I'm going to go ahead and do, and you can do this in any instance, wherever you are, whether it's self-managed or gitlab.com. I'm going to go ahead and create a new subgroup. I'm going to call this a Scrum public demo. I'm going to go ahead and make this public so that you can come reference this project and group later if you'd like. Within this group now, I'm going to create a couple projects that represent the code that we need to develop or build. Let's say that within this, my team is working on a couple different applications. We'll call this application A. I'm going to set this to public as well. And I'm going to create a new project in the public demo for, let's say, a second application. We'll call this application B. And it's worth noting that within GitLab, your epics, if you choose to use them, live within your group level. So this Scrum public demo, your code is actually going to be stored in these applications along with your implementation issues and tasks. So what I tend to recommend is that you create all of your kind of planning processes and artifacts and things like that within the group level, because they cascade down and are automatically available to all of your subgroups and projects below. So now that we have our two groups or two projects set up, we have a group for the Scrum. The first thing we're going to do is set up some labels. And we sort of talked about the importance of labels and scope labels within GitLab and how they can replicate a lot of different use cases from Jira. So the first thing we're going to do is create a set of status labels to kind of look at maybe what we want our workflow to look like in terms of the life cycle of issues and tasks. My first label that I'm going to create, and we'll make these all purple, is going to be status : triage. In GitLab, these scope labels where you include the double colon, it means that they're a scope label. And what a scope label means is that they're mutually exclusive key value paired labels. So any issue or task or epic merge request can only have a single status label on it. So if I apply one status and then another, it will automatically remove the previous status. And I'll kind of show you how that works in just a second. Let's say the next step in our lifecycle is going to be refining our work to be done. We'll create another status for maybe it's ready for implementation. And then we'll create another status for it being in progress. So it's been picked up by a developer and they're working on it. And then we'll create one other, next label will be status is review. So let's say stakeholders need to sign off or double check the work once it's in production or testing environment. And our last status, we'll call this one done, because we can move it there. So now that we have some sort of our basic statuses set up, the next thing I'm going to go in and is create some iterations. Within GitLab, iterations are similar to sprints. And what we have is called an iteration cadence. And this is basically your container that holds all of your different iterations and lets you set some things up. My Scrum team. And so what I'm going to go ahead and do here is enable automatic scheduling. I recommend starting iterations on a Wednesday. I found in my experience just doing this for over a decade is that there's a lot of team members that are often out on Fridays or Mondays. So if you kind of hold your iteration or Scrum ceremonies in the middle of the week, you're more likely to have everyone around. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to have these always start on a Wednesday. And then I'm going to have the duration be 2 weeks. So each of my iterations are going to be 2 weeks long. And then I'm going to have GitLab always maintain 4 upcoming iterations. And so after the first iteration is completed, GitLab will automatically create my 5th iteration. And so that way you don't have to ever go back and create these iterations. They're just automatically populated. And I'm going to enable issues to roll over from one iteration to the next. So any incomplete or non-closed issues in my current iteration will automatically be moved to the next iteration when my current iteration is over. So now that I've created my iterations, you can see GitLab has automatically created my 4 upcoming iterations. There's nothing in them yet. As you can see, there's no burn down, there's no anything. So the next step that I'm going to take here to kind of get set up to facilitate Scrum for my team is go to create some issue boards. So here we go. I'm in a default board that was created. I'm going to edit this board. I'm going to call this, let's say, iteration planning board. And here I want to see there's not going to be any filters. It's just going to be that. I'm going to go ahead and save that. I removed the closed list because I don't really care about seeing closed things. I really just want to schedule things that are open and that aren't in any of my upcoming iterations. So I'm going to create a new list. We'll call this as you can see, here's all the iterations that we just created. I'm going to create a list for my first iteration, and then I'm going to create a list for my next iteration. And then I'll create a list for my third that's already been created. And I'll create a list for my last iteration. So each time you have an iteration that's completed, you basically can delete these lists and add a new one for the next iteration in the sequence. And this will let me automatically drag issues across from one to the next. I can create issues directly within the open or in any of these iterations if I want. So I can enter a title, I can select the project that I want to create them in, either application A or B. Before we create issues, I'm going to go ahead and set up a few other boards that can be helpful. I'm going to set up one called current iteration. And create board. This is going to have my lists on it. They're basically, I'm going to scope this board down here to iteration, and I'm going to go to my Scrum team. This is the iteration cadence I created, current. And what this will do is it applies a permanent filter to this board that's always going to only show things that are in my current iteration. I'm going to add a couple label-based scope lists. So we created our statuses earlier. I think when iterations start, we're going to have things in the ready. So engineers can just pick those up and pull them over. We're going to have a workflow list for in progress. And then we're going to have a workflow list for review. And then we'll have one for done. Yep. There we go. And actually, I'm going to go back and turn on it and leave the closed list. Because at the end of the iteration, what I want to do is I want to review everything that's been done. And then once we're kind of happy with it, and we can see the scope, I'm going to drag it into closed as part of the kind of retrospective process before the iteration ends. And typically I will do this if we start our iterations on Wednesdays, I will have my Scrum ceremonies on a Tuesday or Tuesday afternoon. So that way we can review everything that was done, we can retro about it, and then we can just drag everything in to closed, and that will mark it as completed. So now I have a board set up that kind of models my workflow for the current iteration. And then I'm going to create a new board. I'm going to call this backlog. And here I want to not show any list there. This one, I'm going to create a couple of different label lists for, let's see, triage. So any issues that come in, that have the triage label, that means that I need to go through them. I'm going to create a list for refine. And so we're basically going to triage, see if we need to refine it, if we want to kick it in, where it's going to go. If it needs refinement, we can move it into that list. And then I'm going to create a list for ready. And so what I've effectively done here, as you can see, our workflow is issues come in, we triage them, we refine them, we're going to move them into this ready column. That will cascade those over to the current iteration. So this will automatically be populated, and I'll kind of show you how that works. And then I can do my high-level iteration planning from one iteration to the next within this board. So let's go ahead and create a new issue. Let's say we want to start in the backlog area, and we're going to go ahead and add one for implement API for app A. And let's say we're going to create this issue in the app A. As we see, we've created this issue from this sidebar here without having to open the full issue. I can do things like set due dates. I can add time estimates. I could automatically apply this to an iteration if I wanted to go ahead and do that. You can associate things with milestones, set assignees, all that good stuff. And let's say implement login for app B. Right, so here we go. I'm going to create that in app B. So now I've got two issues that I've created pretty quickly. As you can see, you can start just filling out your backlog, and you can kind of stub things out with titles. And then as you're ready to kind of work on filling out the requirements for some of these things, let's say I want to start refining this. I'm going to go ahead and pop this issue open, and I'm going to add some more details to it. And this is where you can use your description. We both have a rich text editor if you want to do that, or a plain markdown editor. Let's say proposal, let's build an API. And we can say acceptance criteria. It returns a 200. And we could say, maybe we'll be more specific since we want to build a login flow. We can say, let's say this path login endpoint returns a 200 when successfully authenticated. You can make these check boxes if you want to go ahead and check those off as you go. But this is where you can kind of build out your additional acceptance criteria. The other thing you can do once you have an issue created is if you want to break that down further, you can actually break this down into a task or a child item. If I want to go ahead and say new task, I'm going to just go ahead and convert this acceptance criteria to that task. And so what this will do is you can see it automatically create a new task based on this kind of stubbed out checklist that I need to implement. And now I have a dedicated subtask or a task on this issue. You can see what the parent is. I can estimate this independently. But this is where you can go through whenever you're ready to do your sprint planning or iteration planning. You use this wait field to, instead of the idea of a story point from Jira, but wait is essentially behaves the same, which you can enter story point value or your level of effort scale that your team has decided to use. And as we kind of go through now and stub these out, let's say I want to go look at maybe the implement login for app B. This is where if we have designs that we want to collaborate on, I'm going to go ahead and click to upload. I'm going to go look at uploading a new design that maybe we're working on and the design manager. And this is where you can actually drop pins directly on different parts of the design to leave a comment. This looks good. And GitLab has something called to-dos, which if you mention something here just for this demo, I'm going to mention myself. And what this will do in this conversation is this automatically creates a new to-do for me. So if I go look at my to-dos now, you can see I have a comment that created a to-do. I can quickly click on that to pop open the exact context of where I was asked to collaborate with my team members on this design. And this is all version controlled. So if you update a new design that has the same title, it will basically replace this, but you can go back and look at the different versions of your design. And again, we have things like being able to view all of our activity and threaded discussions. You can see everything that ever changed. If I were to go change the title, this is a title update. We actually do version controlled changes to descriptions as well down in the activity area, which is super helpful. And then let's say once I have some things refined and ready to go that I want to schedule into some upcoming iterations, I can go to my iteration planning board and I can look and say, okay, well, let's see here. Here are the two issues that I had just created. And let's say I want to sequence these out. And I want this to be, I'm going to do the API in one iteration, I'll do the view in the next. And let's say that I want to go ahead and do something like block this, it's just a signal that I want to block this issue by the previous one because it's a dependency. I can go down to linked items. I can say, implementing the login for app B, can't do the view until the API is done. So I basically mark that this is blocked by that other issue. And when we look at the board now, we can see the little blocked icon, so you can actually see that it's blocked. But this is where you're now able to sequence things out across your upcoming iterations. If I hop over to my current iteration board, sorry, here, it's not going to show anything because the iteration hasn't started yet. But once it does start, you'll see the issues that pop up here, and they will be populated in this ready column. And so this is sort of how you can use kind of your board scope to your current iteration to actually measure what's going through the different workflow states. The other board that you might find helpful to create is a team board. And this is where based on who is assigned to which issues, you can see a list of different things. So I'm going to create a new list here, and it's going to be based on assignee. And just for this example, I'll show you, we're going to do one for G Weaver. And then for the sake of this, let's show these are open right quick. I'm going to go ahead and assign this to myself. And then what this will do now, when I go look at this, it shows me a list of all the issues that are assigned to me that I could be working on. So as let's say I want to work through some of these different things, and I change this over to, let's say, in progress, I'm able to kind of update the label directly within the issue itself, or I can do it from a board. But then when we kind of go back to the board, you can see it's reflected as now status in progress. So this is just a high level quick start guide for how you can get up and running with using boards, labels, iterations, and groups and projects within GitLab. And also, if you notice, if you have two different teams, maybe that are working on these different applications, you can go to these different projects and also see a list of the issues in each of those projects as well. So here's that implement the API for app A, and you can see the task that belongs to that as well. So yeah, high level, quick run of how to get up and running, facilitating Scrum within GitLab. Back to you, Chris.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Gabe, for that. Go ahead and go back to my slides here. All right. Thanks again, Gabe, for that demo. Now that everyone has an idea on how to utilize GitLab for planning, I wanted to share some tips with everyone to help ensure a successful migration from Jira to GitLab. So our first tip is to examine your Jira setup. I want you to take the time to understand your current Jira instance. Consider this an opportunity to simplify your configuration. Moving to a new agile planning tool allows you to rethink processes and find ways to empower your teams to deliver software faster. For example, in Jira, you might have an enforced status workflow that defines the statuses a work item can be in, the allowed status transitions, the data elements needed to perform a status transition, and which users can perform a status transition. And enforced workflows in an agile planning tool can limit creativity and unnecessarily block progress when exceptions are encountered, hindering the team's ability to respond swiftly to changing priorities and limiting their autonomy in delivering the best business outcomes. Our second tip is to plan your GitLab setup. Focusing on planning up front will save you time down the road and prevent unnecessary change management. For example, you may have that enforced workflow from Jira that requires approvals from the quality assurance lead in a work item before a deployment can happen. Instead of an enforced workflow, consider using GitLab's deployment approvals so that your quality assurance lead needs to approve the deployment directly in GitLab when deploying to specific protected environments like production. Our third tip is to determine the scope of your data migration. Migrating to a new tool is an opportunity to do some backlog cleanup. When deciding on what data to migrate, focus on the data that is necessary to continue your team's work. Bringing large volumes of historical data to a new tool will increase the complexity and effort to migrate, and many times it offers limited value. Historical data can remain in your Jira instance, or you can archive it so that it's accessible without migrating it into GitLab. Once you've narrowed down your data set, you can use the Jira issue importer to migrate data in the GitLab. Our REST and GraphQL APIs are also available for those that want to build a more customized migration experience. Our next planning tip is to plan your migration timeline. In a typical organization, there will be different levels of process complexity and maturity within the teams migrating to GitLab. I recommend that you run a pilot with a team that has a simple setup and is willing to provide feedback. This will allow you to smooth out potential problems and improve your configuration. We recommend planning for time in your schedule to also iterate on your migration process. Another thing to note is that knowledge sharing is an important part of improving your process. You want to provide teams that are onboarding the opportunity to give feedback and share those best practices that they're learning. You can use GitLab wikis to serve as a central source of knowledge for your agile planning process and to document those best practices. Finally, after you completed a migration from Jira to GitLab, you'll want to monitor progress and improvements. So after migrating to GitLab, your teams will unlock new analytics capabilities that allow you to track the flow of value across a value stream. As a result, you'll have the data you need to celebrate successes and learn from missteps. With value stream analytics and the value stream dashboard, you can monitor the positive effect of moving agile planning workflows from a siloed tool to an integrated DevSecOps platform. All right, so before I go into some additional resources we have available, I'm going to launch a poll with just a couple of questions to allow you to provide us feedback on how today's webinar went. We hope you enjoyed today's session, and your feedback helps us ensure we can provide the most relevant and useful content for all of our customers. So we have a number of additional resources that we recommend, starting from free self-service courses to paid private training and engaging with a member of the customer success team one-on-one. If you have a GitLab Premium or Ultimate subscription and want to see if your account qualifies for a customer success engagement, please feel free to send us a chat message with your company email address, and we'll reach out to you after today's call if you're eligible. Another tool not mentioned here is priority support. If you're a GitLab Premium or Ultimate customer, our support engineers can help you troubleshoot issues when using our planning tools in GitLab, or suggest potential GitLab capabilities that match your use case, and even help advocate for you if there's a feature we don't yet support. Please see our scope of support and how to get help with the links that I'll be sharing with you after today's call. You can also inquire with the support team to connect you with your sales and customer success representative if you wish. All right, so now that we've reached the end, let me go ahead and take a look to see if there's any lingering questions, to see if there's anything else we can help answer for you all. All right, so I got one here for you, Gabe. and it's talking about the Jira importer. So we got somebody asking about the Jira importer and what it actually migrates into GitLab. Is there anything you could share on that?
Sure. Yeah. So GitLab imports the following information directly: the issue's title, the description. So we actually convert from GitLab structured content within the description to GitLab flavor markdown. And we also import Jira labels and map those to GitLab labels. You can also map Jira users to GitLab project members when preparing the import. So things like, who created the original issue or task in Jira is stored successfully and translated over to GitLab when the import happens. Other Jira issue metadata that's not formally mapped to GitLab issue fields is imported into the GitLab's issue description as plain text, so you can still reference that. And if you want to convert some of that into scope labels or other labels and update things as you go, that's another option.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds like there's definitely a good amount of information that's automatically mapped over using the Jira importer. So I appreciate you sharing that, Gabe. One more other question around the Jira importer here that I see is a question about the prerequisites for running the Jira importer. What is it that somebody needs to get started with using Jira importer?
It's a good question. To be able to import issues from a Jira project, you must have access or read access on Jira issues and at least the maintainer role in GitLab project that you wish to import into. This feature uses the existing GitLab Jira integration, so make sure you have the integration set up before trying to import Jira issues. You need the API token from Jira, among other things, but it's pretty straightforward, easy to set up if you have a maintainer role or above within the target GitLab project.
Nice, good to know. All right, so I think this next question here is related to kind of planning out your migration, how to best get things set up within the migration process. So this question from a customer asks, what if I track multiple software projects in a single Jira project? How does that migrate to GitLab?
I think in this case, you might consider doing some data cleanup before migrating to GitLab. If you can create a few different Jira projects that you want to kind of map to GitLab projects and kind of move those Jira issues into the corresponding Jira projects. In the Jira importer does do a one-to-one mapping between Jira project and GitLab project. So in GitLab, issues are created at the project level, which corresponds directly to the software being developed within. So if you do want to migrate issues from a single Jira project to relate to multiple software repositories, it might make things more confusing to your end users. If you can't move everything on the Jira side, one other thing you can do is label your Jira issues with different project labels. So when you do import into GitLab, you can actually see and filter down the different issues according to different projects. With those boards that I showed you before, you can scope boards to labels as well. So if you want to have a project board for each project based on the Jira issues labels, you can do that. You can also, if you were to label Jira issues and then migrate over, you can move each individual issue within GitLab from the project it was imported to the target destination project in GitLab that maps to the code base that the project aligns with.
Nice. So it's got a lot of different options there. You don't necessarily need to get everything into the exact GitLab project. It sounds like from the start, although it does make it easier, you've got the option there to kind of move things around if you needed to as well. Nice. Okay, so one last question that I see here is somebody asking about any other suggestions that you might want to provide to somebody who wants to migrate data from Jira to GitLab.
Yeah, if you need to want more custom rules around what gets mapped and what gets created in terms of metadata, there's an open source script that can be found at github.com/swingbit/Jira to GitLab. This is not maintained by GitLab in any official capacity. It's contributed by someone in the wider community who went through the migration process, but it does require a little bit more technical skill from a development perspective, because you do have to mess with some YAML files and some configuration files. But what this will let you do is have a lot more capabilities and options when doing the migrating, including things like migrating epics, Jira epics to GitLab epics, taking Jira fields like components and status and automatically mapping those to scope labels. And so, yeah, if you need a little bit more power and control over what happens during the migration process, I highly recommend checking that out, as it provides quite a bit more extensibility over what the native GitLab Jira importer supports.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And what I'll do is I'll make sure to grab this link and I'll put it in the chat as well as making sure it gets wrapped up in our follow-up resources with a recording and today's deck as well. Looks like those are all the questions that I see here. Thanks, Gabe, for helping answer some of those questions.
My pleasure.
All right, so we're going to wrap things up here. Thanks, everybody, for your time. I definitely hope you found today's webinar valuable. I want you to explore all these topics and more in the tutorial, training, and documentation links that will be shared with you after the completion of today's session. Thanks, everyone, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in another future webinar. Take care.